Welcome to Functionally Speaking, the podcast where two clinicians share one brain cell and way too many opinions.
I'm Laura, your mineral-obsessed dietitian who gets fired up about gut health, metabolism, and fertility, with enough sass to keep it interesting and enough nuance to keep it real.
And I'm Danielle, a physician assistant obsessed with gut health, hormones, and calling out bullshit.
We're here for the nuance, the hot takes, the facts your certification skipped over, and the occasional spiral into chaos.
If you're a health coach, practitioner, or clinician who's slightly functional, just like our mitochondria in our recording process, you're in the right place.
We're not here to sugarcoat the science or pretend there's one right way to do this work. We're doing it our way, unfiltered, slightly feral, and always with love for the humans we serve. Let's get into it.
Welcome back for episode 6 of Functionally Speaking, the clinical pod that spirals responsibly, sponsored by Unconventional Collaborative, a interdisciplinary virtual mastermind for coaches, practitioners, and trainers to elevate their practice. You can learn more about joining our group at unconventionalcollaborative.com or follow us at unconventional.collaborative on Instagram. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. That's just what...
This is what you get with us. Random jingles and sometimes appropriately timed jingles that are songs we love. Anyway.
I don't know what that song is or whatever that was, but it was appropriately timed.
Yeah, it was cute. I loved it.
All right. What are we talking about today?
Oh, we're going to talk about IVF and insurance, our hot take on access and outcomes. This is one that I think can really ruffle some feathers, but I think it's not talked about enough because... And let me preface this by saying we are not anti-IVF. I have so many friends and clients who have gone through IVF and have wonderful, beautiful babies from there. And so this is not us saying no to IVF. This is us explaining that we think it's overused and used too quickly. And we want to talk more about the process and how we as practitioners kind of view this process, and then what no one's talking about. Because I think that's the other problem, is that we're letting insurance and we're letting these reproductive facilities dictate a lot of the care when a lot of the care has been missed far before they get here.
100%. 100%. Like, it's ironic because, isn't it ironic? It's going to be one of those...
I love Alanis.
She has a residency in Vegas for anyone who's curious about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm considering. Anyway, I put out a post today about how women have to go through 3 miscarriages to get to IVF. So this is also part of the problem for me, is that women get shoved off and told, F off, we can't do anything for you.
But it's also your fault.
And it's also your fault. And we're not going to look at a semen analysis because God forbid a man be blamed for anything. And we could test him every single day of his life. Yes, because all they have to do is
takes way more to test.
Jack off in a cup. And then, we shuttle people straight to IUI and IVF, which are very expensive and invasive. And like we said earlier, we're glad those things are there for people who truly need them. Like, there are men who are born with what I will call a natural vasectomy. So they literally can't ejaculate sperm. There are women who have problems structurally, whatever the case is, that leads people to truly need that. However, when we are seeing the fertility rates get so scary, it's happening too quickly, and we're missing things in the woman's health that is important, not only for her to have a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy, but to be a healthy fucking human. We forget sometimes that these pregnant vessels are also independent humans. And it's why is this woman having these miscarriages? And
I think we also, as a society and as a medical system, we hide the trauma that is behind the whole process of becoming pregnant, staying pregnant, even getting pregnant. As someone who has had a miscarriage myself, I cannot imagine having to go through 3 miscarriages to get anyone to look at me and dig deeper. I still go to therapy and talk through a miscarriage because there is so much that it impacted. It was my first pregnancy. It shifted my entire view of what my future was going to look like. It impacted both pregnancies that I had after it because of the anxiety. And the fact that I only had one, I am so lucky that I had the support and didn't have to go through it. But any woman who goes through it once knows. They know the trauma that it entails. And then to be told, oh, well, It's probably just genetic or chromosomal. Okay, and what if it's not?
One of the most common causes of miscarriage in the first trimester is a chromosomal abnormality.
Correct.
So that and low progesterone. So, we could, that could be a whole rabbit hole. So, yes, I think we need to also all be open to the fact that like this could have just been a fucking freak accident. Nobody's fault. Nothing's wrong with anybody. And also, like, what's the harm in doing some investigation and running some testing and talking to that woman about like what does your life look like and what does your health look like? Like we're talking, and I don't know if this has been passed yet for insurances to have to cover IVF. And I'm not necessarily against this, but why aren't we incentivizing more root cause?
IVF makes a ton of money.
It does. And like we're making money at the expense of women's physical, mental, and emotional health. And yes, is there a percentage of those women who will need to go on no matter what testing we do, they may have more miscarriages and et cetera. Fucking absolutely. And also maybe there's 50. I would not be surprised if we could reduce the amount of miscarriages by 50%.
I agree. I mean,
I really don't.
I think the problem is like, I think back to my miscarriage, and granted, I have the background that I have the resources that I have, so I could investigate. But women aren't, there was no questions, there was no resources.
No,
There
just,
was
oh,
nothing.
sorry.
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, it was probably
Here's,
like,
here's a
I'm
grief
at 8
pamphlet.
weeks. Yeah, like, I mean,
Did you even get that?
no. I mean, I was in my appointment alone because it was the first week of COVID.
Which-
So whole other trauma involved in that. It's one of those things where like I wasn't asking for even more testing, right? And I think we can talk too about the pros and cons of more testing because I think there's a time and a place. But like I didn't even get the like, are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? Are you overtraining? Are you like those basics, which we probably will talk about in every episode, they're just not touched upon. And most women are conceiving later because most women are pushing off pregnancy and building families until they feel like they have their feet under them, which like who can have their feet under them these days in this economy? But like, it is also more likely that because of that, fertility rates go down anyway as we age, but they should not drop in the way that they are currently dropping.
No, this isn't like a steady decline. It's like a jump off a cliff, man. Yeah. That like the cliffs. What are the cliffs of Moher?
The cliffs. Yeah, I don't know how you say it.
In Ireland,
I know exactly what you're talking about. We're probably if you're
we
Irish,
spend way too much fucking time together.
We complete each other's sentences. It's fine.
Oh God. But
and I think a lot of women are sold this. So this is what I see a lot in my practice, and I'm curious what you see, is I work with a lot of women in this fertility space who come to me and they are at the point of like, they've been trying for 6 months to a year and their doctor is like, oh, well, let's just sign you up for an IVF appointment. And when they go to their the reproductive facility or doctor, even if they see, some of them don't even see a doctor, right? They're seeing like a nurse practitioner or just a nurse to like get their intake form, whatever. And they're sold a baby, right?
100%.
These women are so vulnerable,
desperate.
Like,
and I don't mean desperate in a negative way either. Like I didn't.
No,
yeah.
Like, and I think so many of these women, they start their fertility journey thinking, oh my God, we're going to have a baby soon, right? So it's not just like, let's have fun and let's do, the deed. It's like, oh, we're going to have a crib here and we're going to have a baby and we're going to get onesies and we're going to talk about, childcare.
It's the building of a life.
Correct. And so I think there's just such vulnerability in this. And so when they go to an IVF clinic and they're told, oh yeah, like we'll do X amount of times of IUI if that's appropriate, or this is what we're going to do. Here's blah, blah, blah. And here's the plan of like how we're going to do an egg retrieval and what the embryo transfer is going to look like. And here are the dates. And it becomes very robotic. Yeah. And they're told, up, and you will get a baby at the end of this. So who doesn't want to sign up, right? These women are just so vulnerable. And so I don't blame anyone who does.
Yeah, take my 15 to 30. I mean, what's the cost for IVF? 15 to 30 grand a cycle, depending on like where you live and who the specialist is and everything else. Like, but yet we're not running GI map testing or doing like investigating, like, did these people have toxin exposures? Do they have mouth breathing? Like, I mean,
most of these women aren't even having their estrogen or progesterone checked. And if they are, it's the wrong time of the cycle. They're not looking at thyroid or thyroid antibodies. They're not looking at fasting insulin. Like
the full thyroid panel and celiac, I would say, are like two of the biggest markers that I feel are like, I don't want to say basic, but like like the next step. Like if someone came to me and they just wanted to optimize their health for fertility, I don't know that I'd run a celiac panel off the like.
I think it depends on their symptoms,
It
right?
does. It's true. But if those things haven't been checked in your client, a full celiac panel too, right? There's 6 markers to that. And a full thyroid panel, like that is a sneaky one. And I would say also considering endometriosis if it's looks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
Yeah,
Because
having
so
to have
many
to
of these,
fight for that is
dude, I
unbelievable.
fucking can't. The rage that I feel inside of my bones when we start to mention that is just like, first of all, like,
You know it's bad when you have to take a minute.
yeah, like, why have we not found something less invasive to confirm the presence of endometriosis? Like, if it was a man's ball sack, I say this all the time, it would be very different. I
What?
stand.
We would have that down to a T.
Can you imagine telling a man like, "I'm sorry, we need to cut into your scrotum to see if there's something wrong with you"?
But also the fact that it takes as long as it does.
15 years on average,
Yeah,
diagnosis of
like
endo.
it's
15 years.
absurd. And I feel like because we screen the way we do with our clients, like
Yeah.
I see dead ringers. Like
Oh,
these women
it's
have
not even like stuff that I'm like digging like a dachshund in a hole.
no,
Like,
it's super painful periods, heavy periods,
yeah.
bloating. Like we're not talking about like, oh, they just have like a 4-day cycle and they go through a couple of tampons a day. Like these women are bleeding through
I have a
tampons.
woman right now who's losing 200 milliliters of blood a cycle, at least.
Okay,
200.
that is
For
wild.
context, if clinicians out there don't know, or for like the
Anyone.
regular person who's listening, normal blood loss in one menstrual period is, depending on who you ask, 25 to 80 milliliters. More experts are saying 25 to 50 is more optimal. So like 200.
200. That is absurd.
Yeah.
Well, but it's so frustrating because I just feel like it doesn't take a lot to say, this, what like you said, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. And
Here's
we
birth control.
know that endometriosis is a factor in fertility.
100%.
Like, it is probably one of the
100%.
major female reasons for infertility or subfertility issues. And we're not doing our due diligence. And I agree. I think there needs to be better screening tools and diagnostic tools. But like this woman should be getting investigation. I had a client once who her tubes were completely blocked. And they're like, it's probably endo, but just go up the IVF route. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like her tubes are blocked. We have an issue here.
It's almost like I don't know if this correlates, but like the first thing that came to my mind is like, it's just cancer. Just cut it out. Don't test it. And definitely don't do any other treatment. Like that's literally what I hear with that.
I was like, I mean, I'm not your doctor, so I can't tell you next steps, but
Right.
like, that just feels like lazy medicine. It's like, oh, well, we have, it's kind of like heartburn, right? Like, well, we have a PPI, just take the PPI.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
not look for H. pylori. Let's not look for airway issues. Let's not look for hiatal hernia. Like, let's just give you a PPI.
Well, so many of these women were suffered in their teens and 20s and were thrown on birth control. And then we expect we expect the fucking online connection to come back 5G when it's like AOL fucking dial-up. Like trying to like fucking connect your brain to your ovaries at that point, and they're like, "Oh, I don't understand why you're not getting pregnant." It's like, what? Do you not did no one teach you how to critically think?
I mean, you bring up a really great point. How many women do you know who have been on birth control for as long as they have, and their doctor's like, "Oh, you're trying to conceive, just come off and start trying."
Yeah, which no.
Yeah, first off, no, because you're probably so depleted. And second off, like if you were taking birth control because of those symptoms don't just like go away.
No.
They're not just like, oh, like birth control is just masking them. They're not actually fixing
Right.
them. So, oh yeah.
So that was a tangent on endo and birth control.
I think we could go on a tangent on so many things around
the clinical pod that spirals responsibly. One thing I do think we should hit on is just how we are changing the definitions of what is considered fertile in a semen analysis. So I'm taking this from Lily Nichols' most recent book, Real Food for Fertility, page 213 for people who might have it. And she's talking about how most healthcare practitioners determine whether sperm parameters are normal based on standards set by the WHO in 2010. The WHO Laboratory Manual for the Examination and Processing of Human Semen specifies the following cutoff values, blah, blah, blah. And then she gives a bunch of numbers, and then she gives a bunch of numbers for what we are determining now in 2025 as fertile, subfertile, and infertile. And to give you an example, just we'll say sperm motility in 2010, it was greater than 40. And in 2010, I think this was the last one. In 2010, it's greater than 40. And in 1980, it's supposed to be greater than 60. So basically, what this is saying is we are having less sperm being motile and functional, but they're still considered fertile. So we're changing the definition of what it means to qualify as fertile, subfertile, or infertile because rates are declining so fast.
Wild that we're just like okaying that. And not to mention, how long does it take for us to even consider testing the male
Right.
currently? It should be one of the first things because it is
So easy.
easy.
So
Like,
fucking
so
easy.
easy. You can do it at home. Like Legacy is one of the at-home
Yep.
ones if your doctor won't run it. But it's wild to me. Like that should be the first one. And then basing it on these higher standards, because I think what happens, and I see this often, I'm sure you see it too, is okay, a semen analysis is run, and they don't often do like the DNA fragmentation either, which is a whole nother issue, but like they will run it and then they meet the current standards. So the guy's like given a gold star. And I think the two problems with that is one, it's incorrect because they're still subfertile in our eyes. And two, a lot of times it helps the male partner check out because they no
Yeah.
longer feel like they need to do anything. And it takes two to tango on so many levels, right? Like if we're
Yeah.
literally talking down to a cellular level of like, we need to be nourishing ourselves. We need good, strong mitochondria. We need good, strong cellular nourishment. And that comes from both the egg and the sperm. And so
Right.
I just see this downfall on both sides. And so
The
the other
placenta
issue,
is completely determined by the man, right?
oh yeah, and I think some of the like morning sickness can because it can stem from the placenta can be due to the male sperm, which
Of course. Of course.
but I think that like I think as a practitioner, if you're working with a partner, I actually now have a whole partner screening
Screen.
form because if someone's coming to me for fertility, I need to know what's going on with the partner, at least at baseline, to understand like, are we digging into them as well? And then I also think it gives a little bit of like camaraderie in the whole process because so often the woman is the one who's being told, this is what's wrong. This is the test you have to do. We have to do this. You have
Yep.
to do right. And now the male partner, and granted, this is only for the male partners, but like they need to also be a part of this because they too have an impact. And not to mention, they could be supportive of the woman and shoulder some of that stress.
Do something.
Oh, because you know what? You need to be shouldering the stress when the baby comes too. So start now. But I think going back to like as a provider, I think that you need to be asking the right questions about the male partner, but you also, if semen analysis is done, you need to also be letting them know these standards, these new standards, and having them make sure that like, okay, this is like bare minimum, but bare minimum is still not going to get us the level of fertility that we're looking for. And for men, like we probably should do a full episode on male fertility. Like I won't go into
Yeah.
all of it now, but some of their changes are so stupid easy.
I know. It's
And
like
so
take
like if
CoQ10, eat enough food, breathe through your
like
nose.
don't overheat your balls.
Yeah.
Like some of it is so simple. Whereas
Although
for
getting
women,
men to buy new underwear, I feel like is an act of God.
I mean, doing anything with them, right? But like compared to what we have a lot of women do, I
Right.
mean, oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So, I mean, like the changing definitions, the dramatically declining fertility rates, not addressing the male problems. Like, we need to be asking, if you're working with women, you need to be asking about like what the men, like, are the men in their life smoking marijuana? That's a huge one. Like,
you are they
you know,
drinking?
yeah,
Like how often are they
alcohol and
drinking?
marijuana. Like, what are we doing here, guys? But I think, testing, as far as like what testing should we be doing for people for fertility, like I have a whole blood. I stay with blood generally at first. If people have raging gut issues, I'm also doing a GI map on people. I just feel like gut issues cause so many problems. But like, what are some of the, I guess I'm like kind of bouncing back. I'm curious as to like what the top like couple of things that you feel are contributing to these declining rates of fertility. And like, I guess we'll bring screening tools back into this. Like, is there a screening tool for X, Y, or Z thing?
I think one of the biggest things is stress.
Same.
And
Was my number one too.
yeah, I mean, granted, we could say stress is coming from the diet, it's coming from lifestyle, it's coming from exercise, but it's also coming from the relationships in your life. The, having a baby is also not going to fix that relationship if that's what you're trying to do. It's going to make it way harder, FYI. But I think we have to understand, and this is where I don't know if we've talked about this before, but we talk about it a lot in the collaborative of having almost like a stress timeline for your clients, because you can say stress is the problem ad nauseum to the client, but until they reflect back and understand, like, what's the stress you're talking about? If they can understand, like, I don't know, were they abused as a child? Were they, parentified as a child? Like, is this actually stemming all the way back from, like, did their parents smoke? Like, was their mom drinking while they were in utero? Like, and I'm not saying that to make it now they're stressing about the stress, but understanding that the stress isn't just like, hey, you need to go on a vacation and have sex with your partner, right? Like, I think a lot of people are told that and they're like, well, F you, it didn't work. The thing is like, we need to dig deeper and look at that stress timeline and say, oh, and it's probably going to your screening questions, but like, if we look at that stress timeline, not only can we understand, like, how deep does this stress go, but they can start understanding. And if they can start understanding, sometimes just the relief of telling someone, like, this is all I've been through, and someone telling them, like, hey, you've been through a lot. Sometimes just them not shouldering that load anymore. Not saying that's going to, like, all of a sudden make them
cure their infertility. Yeah.
But it starts the process, right?
Totally.
Of them, like, being more gentle with themselves and realizing, like, oh shit, it's not just that I'm stressed because I have a high stress job. It's because literally my entire life I've been trying to perform and achieve and whatever.
Yeah, I have a client right now who she didn't really realize the cumulative effect of her whole life. She was like, I never really thought about, like, I've never really exhaled my whole life. It's just been like one thing after another after another. And I think you were touching on that, but just to say it like a little more directly about, like, people do not realize the cumulative effect of from your mother drinking in utero to having like a fucked up childhood to being financially strained in PA school, or, I'm just thinking about me living on $33 for 2 weeks. That was a really good time, and having
Drinking
no
way
one to
too
fall
much.
back on. Yeah, like, I mean, all of these things have a cumulative effect, so people can look at their life and be like, well, like, I have a good job, I have good people. Well, okay, cool, like, that's great. And also, like, you have this whole pile of shit that is undealt with. Stress was 100% my number one. And, there's not really, like, I mean, I guess you could say cortisol panels. I don't run them that often. I run them on people who, like, need to see the data and want it. And then they look at it and they go, oh, I have no adrenal function. Oh, ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, like, for me, the second most important is going to be looking at mineral and vitamin deficiencies and understanding. And I hate the word toxicity, but, like, if we have too much vitamin D or too much iron, like, or possible too much copper, like, what does that look like?
Dude, that whole fucking rabbit hole I went down with that, like, borderline iron excess that my one client who had 2 miscarriages, like, it can apparently lead to this. I thought was such a good clinical pearl. It can lead to, like, because it leads to inflammation in the endothelial
right.
layer of your arteries. It can actually create minor thrombi, which can lead to miscarriage. And so if you have clients who have iron excess, like, even if it's borderline, like, that can be a problem.
What I also find interesting is, and I don't know that this is universal in all IVF clinics, but I don't know that women are initially screened for clotting disorders.
What?
Which is, like, I've not always seen that, and I could be wrong, but, like, in my practice, what I've seen, and I see women from all over, so it's not just like one IVF clinic, but shouldn't that be a standard too? Like, I almost feel like
it's like a third miscarriage thing.
Yeah. And so I like factor 5 Leiden, and there's like a couple
antiphospholipid antibodies, protein C, protein S.
Like, I mean, granted, once again, I could be wrong, but I don't have those results of my clients who have gone through this. And so, like,
my girl had to beg to have that testing done.
I mean, worst case, it rules it out, like, or I guess that's best case, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not harmful to test for that. So that's another thing that I think people could advocate for is, like, if nothing else, like, let's rule it out. Make sure that that's not a cause.
And I would say, like, the third thing I would put to this would be, and you kind of alluded to it with the vitamin and nutrient deficiencies, is under eating.
Always. Yeah.
It's just like your body, if it is not safe, it's not going to ovulate. And if it doesn't feel safe enough, like, it's not going to keep a pregnancy. Like, I'm not saying that, loss is anybody's fault or this or that, but it's like your body's got to feel safe to, like, feed you and that baby. So I actually have a fertility awareness and pregnancy prep masterclass where that's one of the things I talk about people doing before they go down the route of getting pregnant is healing their relationship with food and body, because your body is going to really change. I know we took like a hard left turn from fertility with that one, but like it's
No, it's
important.
important.
It's
It is
important for
important.
clinicians to talk. Like when you have patients who are coming to you, patients or clients who are coming to you for fertility and they're like, I'm afraid to gain weight, like there's some unpacking to do there before that person gets pregnant.
Well, I also think a lot of people then get pregnant and they're like, well, what do I need to change in my diet? And my answer is like, first off, that first trimester, you're not going to be able to
Good
change
luck.
anything. Yeah. Like we need to be doing that work prior. And granted, that's not always the case, right? For these IVF clients, it usually is the case,
Right.
right? Because we're catching them and they have been through it. And that's another thing I think is really important too. By the time most of our clients have approached the reproductive clinic to do IUI or IVF, it's been 6 months to a year at minimum
Right.
of them trying. And I have been in this. So with my second, when we were trying for my second, it took a couple months, which is a mind fuck. Like every month being like negative, negative, negative. Like, and I only had to experience a very, very small window of this. So I'm not saying my experience is their experience, but having done that, I recognize the stress that that can also cause. So now we're adding more stress, right? And this is where too, I think we've both had this discussion of all this tracking that goes on
Oh,
during trying for pregnancy. And I personally, I love that we have capabilities of testing things like the Inedo and the Mirror fertility monitors at home. I love them. I hate them when people are trying to get pregnant
oh,
because it's just one more control mechanism that then, my midwife always says babies are made when you're having fun, which obviously is not
there's
always the
more
case.
to it,
More
but
to it, but I agree that like us over stressing and overanalyzing and looking at every chart and every graph and every whatever can also just be too much. It's too much stress. And so this is why like people will come to me and they're like, well, I'm debating like coming to you or going to IVF. And I say, I need minimum 3 to 6 months of your time
and they
where
like,
we're not really trying. Like if it
yeah,
happens, great, but like we're just pulling the brakes off. We're really working on egg health, sperm health, relationship with food, like you said, stress
yeah,
management, nervous system support. And I said, if you give me that time, I'm not going to promise a baby, but I'm going to promise your foundations are going to be so much better to the point where your cycles are going to be better. Your sleep is going to be better. Like all the things that can then prep you. And so many people want to skip that part because they go to the IVF clinic. They're like, oh, we could probably see a baby in 3 months. Which
yeah.
one are they going to choose? Right. And so I think it's worth being open and honest with the client. And then I also think, we see women who are post IVF and it does a number. I don't know what you think, but like I've seen this with a lot of my women who have done IVF. Like it takes a while for them to re-regulate from not just a period menstrual cycle place, but also just like a nervous system place. It's like they're giving the baby and they're like, okay, yeah, you did it. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, there's not even to mention that, but like, I've heard things about like increased risk of cancer with
We've been talking
IVF
about
because
that
of
in the
all the
collaborative.
hormones and things like that. So
Wild.
I just, I think the bottom line with what we're saying, because we are coming up on like 30 minutes here and
Oh,
I know
love it forever.
we're trying to keep these shorter for you guys, but we're not against IVF. We want to see the basics done first, like fund the basics before you fund the basics before you fund the biohacking.
Yes,
To,
it's
to
gonna be
go
like our catch life.
to go off of last episode. Like I
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
and for the clinician listening to this, like make sure you're going through those things about like, do we have good progesterone levels? Are we testing hormones, micronutrient panels, or key vitamins and nutrients? Making sure that, what is the person doing for how much stress do they have in their life and how much of that do they have control over? I would say is like one of the most important things you can be talking to people about, because so many women that I work with too, like they need more boundaries. Like they work for free. They have their work phone on, or they say yes to things they don't want to say yes to, like that. Again, I'm not saying that this is going to cure your infertility, but it's not helping.
No.
So,
And one last thing that I just want to bring up because we've been talking about like
yeah.
fertility rates. I thought it was really interesting to look at success rate with IVF.
Yeah.
And it's all based on maternal age. So when someone's less than 35, the live births using patient's own egg for a singleton pregnancy, so one baby, is only 51%. And that goes
Wow.
down significantly. So 35 to 37 is 38.3%, 38 to 40 is 25.1%. 41 to 42 is 12.7%, and over greater than 42 is 4.1%. Now, we could look at actual fertility rates and, we'd see a similar decline. So it's
Sure.
not like,
Sure.
it's not necessarily scary that over 42 is low, but I just think we also have to be realistic of like, this also doesn't work for everyone. And it's like, kind of like you were talking about earlier in the episode of just like, why isn't it working? Right? Like, we can't just keep going through cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle. We have to really be pulling back those layers. And that's, as a clinician, what we need to be working on. And here's the thing is that I work with women who are going through IVF. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Right.
And you can still do the basics and the foundations while they're going through this. And I think there's a much higher success rate. I mean, I don't have those numbers, but
I
I
also
know.
don't think that women are being talked to about this either. Like,
No.
hey, like while we're doing this, like let's just take 6 months, have you work with a dietitian, make sure all of your blood work no, they're running a CBC, a CMP, and a fucking TSH, and they're like, looks great, go to IVF. Like, no, no. So I have no
But
final thoughts.
no.
I don't
Yeah.
have, I'm trying to think of a fancy outro right now. Again, I'll leave it with this, like quit skipping the basics and going straight into biohacking
Correct.
later.
Right.